Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, where we're all about relentless self-development and consciousness optimization.
You stole my line. I'm supposed to say the second bit. Anyway, it's fine.
That's okay, mate. It's okay. And on today's episode, we're talking about purpose. So the title is, what's the point? What's the point, of finding purpose? And we're going to dive into so many deep topics here. But just to preface it, it is a massive topic. It's something that we will not cover everything in this episode. It's very big. There's a lot that people can obviously add to it, and we'll be learning as we go through life. But we're going to try to hopefully bring a little bit of insight to people and share our experiences of what purpose is and what's the point of life.
It's huge.
Big, real big one.
So yeah, we've covered it a little bit in some of the very early episodes, but that was more of an overview, and today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. We are live on Castbox right now, doing a live cast. Is that what it's called? Yep. We live cast them pretty much each week now at this point, so you can jump into those. Make sure to follow us there, and you can interact with us and send us questions. But for now, basically what I just clarified with the people that are live with us is that we're just lucky enough to have had some experiences that have led up to this point that have allowed us to have a little bit more of an open consciousness and a little bit more of an open mind and some insight into potentially how some of these things work. And we just feel that potentially some of our insights may help other people. So we figured, why not share it, basically. Yeah. What I'm really saying by that is that neither of us actually have any idea what's going on.
No, that's exactly right.
And no, neither does anyone.
No.
And that's part of the fun.
And that's really okay, though. That is okay.
But we're just trying to have a conversation that could be a little bit productive to some people. So with that preface, what's the point of life, Dan?
So big. Well, we want to talk about why this is important. Why should we care about finding purpose, right?
Yeah, why can't I just run around in life and just like aimlessly play video games and like run around, hang out with my friends and not think about any of this stuff? And and I can.
You can,
yeah.
But I guess you might not find meaning from that as you keep doing it, and you may find yourself going into a slump where you're not connected with yourself or with people around you or the world or the bigger scheme of things. So that's kind of what we're trying to hopefully instill in people or help people to reflect a little bit more on.
But the main thing is that, the reason it's important is because, we're the only animals that can actually, apparently dolphins and some forms of monkeys are self-aware. As far as we know, we are the only animals that are self-aware enough to actually talk about what is the point, basically. And so it's plaguing for us to think about, because I'm sure everyone's had that thought, whether what is the point? I mean, if you're not, then you were just born a Zen master, and I want to meet you.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast. Because you've got some wisdom that you were born with, my friend. But that's interesting. I don't want to insult anyone, but it's there can be people that perhaps aren't as bright or intelligent traditionally, and they seem to live a very peaceful, uninterrupted life because they're not plagued with these constant, incessant thinking that weighs them down and makes them think about, what is the point of life? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they may just be happy with their situation. They may have meaning through that maybe they have an assigned meaning to. It's just come subconsciously, but they've recognized that this thing makes me feel good, so I'm going to keep doing it. They're not plagued, like you said, with that, which I think you and I are. So it's quite a hard thing to go through and constantly question your purpose and why we're on this floating rock.
I would say it's a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah,
that thing that we have, this incessant thinking. In that, I'm blessed because we get to have these thoughts and think about it on a deeper level, which allows us to have some insights and think about things, and it can be productive. But then on the other side of it, it can be unproductive because we're sitting here and we're thinking about life. We're not getting anywhere because there is actually no real point to it. And that's kind of the next point that we want to jump into, is that there are positives and negatives to this, and that's really it, is that it can be a very productive thing, because the reason anything is invented at all is because we had a thought in our mind and then we manifested it into reality, right? The microwave, tell me how that works. I couldn't, right? Digital cameras, tell me how that works. I couldn't. No. Okay, and I have one.
Yep.
But so everything's been manifested through thought, right? But then, the negative thing is that also negative things have been manifested through thought, all terrorist acts and things like that. But also, it can just keep you stuck in life, which, again, we mentioned before the podcast, both of you and I have been in times where we're oh my God, nothing matters. Life's amazing. Let's go out and run around and talk to people and have fun. But then we've also been on that flip side where we're sitting here what is the point?
What are we doing?
Nothing matters. Why are we doing anything?
Yes.
Why should I get out of bed today? Why should I eat today?
100%. And I guess what you're trying to say is it is normal to have those ups and downs. You know, it's one of those things that being meaning makers and having so much meaning associated to all of these things, it's common to go through these phases where you don't find yourself having purpose, and you find yourself having to reshuffle and reprioritize what's around you because you're not feeling, right in yourself. You're not feeling happy. So,
or as someone shared earlier, that your circumstances change.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
So you can be deep. This happened to me very recently, actually. You can be very deep in like, oh my God, life is so amazing right now. Like all of these 10 things have fallen into place. Everything's going great. Like I'm progressing in all these areas. And then just a small circumstance changes. And all of a sudden you're in almost living hell where you're like, wait, what's going on? I don't have a handle on anything. And like this was going right before, but now it's not. And it's funny that, all it takes is one small thing to change. And then you're back in that, like that meaning phase where you're like, wait, but what does this mean now? And what's my direction like now? And, this is where purpose comes in, is that you need direction. And purpose is driven by, fulfillment and meaning. We had a podcast on that basically, that, you need to actually have purpose. And that's what helps you kind of create meaning and therefore have realize what the point of life is.
Yep.
A little bit off the beaten path there. But basically we should dive into what our views on what the point of life is, which again we've shared in previous podcasts, but maybe not as deep. And it's funny because I want to share a small experience in that. Recently, I've been touting this. I don't know if that's the right word, but I've been.
We'll work on
that. Let's, for the purpose of it, touting
add it to the dictionary, please.
I will look this up afterwards. I'm just saying words at this point. I don't know. We made it up. We're applying meaning to this word. We're getting too meta, Dan. Okay. So my saying for quite a while now, I've had some deep realizations along life, as we all do, is that the point of life is to experience consciousness in the present moment, which when you kind of take a step back, it's like someone questioned that to me recently, and it's like, it made me think that it comes off like I'm putting more of a heavy side on the present moment part, which mindfulness and meditation is very important, and paying attention to the present moment is very important. But to actually cut that down a little bit, to refine it, I think the purpose of life from my point of view is simply to experience consciousness, right? So we're fulfilling our purpose at any given time. And anything beyond that, to me, that's the most logical, like plain way of thinking about it. And anything beyond that, we as humans are applying meaning to, right? Whether it's positive or negative, the point of life is to spread positivity and love. That's fantastic. And obviously you're going to have a productive and fun time doing that. But that's meaning on top of the point is to experience consciousness.
Yes.
So before we get into yours, I want to dive into what we were kind of chatting about before, is that, oh no, I've forgotten. So the point of life is to experience consciousness. All right. So the whole, we're just ants on a rock in space thing. Basically, what I mentioned earlier is that, like, we fundamentally know scientifically that we're made up of billions of microbiome in our gut, and that's what drives our brain and all this kind of things. And it's like, when you actually take a step back and think about that, it's like, wait, I'm made up of billions of microbiomes and like mini little animals that are actually controlling the way I move around and think and act, basically.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
That is crazy.
There's not even there's like the same amount of people on the planet in my stomach. Like it's the same for everyone. And so on a, it's like, we're just these ants on a rock in space. What matters? Nothing matters. But then you can think about that on a larger scale, and it's like, what if, or the whole solar system and everything that we know of, or that we've seen scientifically that has been proven, is just another gut. Wow, just had a stroke. Gut microbiome.
Yes,
basically.
yeah.
So all of these billions of things that we've like recognized in our space is actually just inside another animal. And then that is just another billion animal inside another, and it could just go forever.
Very meta, massive, yeah.
And then you think about that, and it makes you really take a step back, and you're like, wait, what? What is going on?
Yeah, well, that's it.
And we think we're so significant. We're like, we're humans. We're the only conscious things that we know about on this planet, and we're amazing. And look, we are. It's pretty crazy what we can do. But when you think about it in that kind of context, it really makes you go, wow, like there is not really any point. And so that's why
we're a blip on the radar of history as such. We're very insignificant. As cynical as that sounds, it can be helpful in recognizing that.
It gives you gratitude.
Yeah, it gives you gratitude. It grounds you.
But that's why I say the point of life is just simply to experience consciousness, and anything on top of that is really the icing on the cake.
It is, yeah.
And so, yeah, whether that's positive or negative, like you are fulfilling your purpose at any time, and that gives me a little bit of relief from the incessant thinking, because it's like, nah, everything's okay. I'm like, here I am. Like, I'm alive right now.
Yeah.
That's very simple, like, simplifying it quite a bit, but
yeah, that's great, man. Well, it's tricky because I agree with everything you said. I think that's a really nice, not a blanket statement, but it's a nice way to see it in a general sense that everyone can hopefully recognize. And I can't really add anything to that because I think you did a really good job there. And I want to talk about connection. But as you were talking about that, as important as connection is, we're still adding meaning to that, right? And it's still not as kind of blanketed as yours is. But I think in terms of just recognizing how powerful connection is for me, in my experience, that was something that really gave me purpose and made me feel like there was a point to life. And that's because of who I am, because I love connection, right? And not everyone's going to be inclined that way necessarily, but you will recognize that if you're connected to the right people, even if it's a smaller group, if you prefer a smaller group of people, you will recognize the massive difference between being around toxic people and being around people that really click with you, people that either share similar interests or can support you, or people that just connect on a deeper level if that's something you're into. That's something that you and I are doing here, and it's something that we've been doing for a long time, having these deep, meaningful chats about things. Yes, we don't know anything. At the end of the day, there is so much to learn, and we will not think that we know everything ever.
Because speak for yourself. I know everything. Yeah.
Oh, we're going into an ego conversation now. Yeah. No, but for me, connection was the biggest thing for finding meaning, right? The fact that I moved here from England, had issues with my family, and it's kind of just my mum and my friends. So I recognized early on that I needed to make my friends my family. I needed to connect with people that can support me and I can support them, and we can connect and learn off each other and grow together. And that's something that within myself has really given me a lot of purpose and made me feel like more important than these projects, because the projects that I'm doing, I'm assigning meaning to, and as satisfying as they are, they're things, right? They're still something that I'm doing, right? Where connecting with someone is something that I try to go into each situation where we're connecting on a deeper level and we're sharing something that is bigger than us as such. And that's something that's really important to me in terms of finding meaning.
You're entirely right. And I think what my expression was more of like a base answer, and you're kind of adding that extra bit on top, which is like absolutely necessary. And I'll tell you why you're right. In that, I don't know where the saying came from, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, it doesn't matter how successful you get if you don't have your friends to share it with. I don't know if you've heard that.
I've heard that, yeah.
But the reason that rings true to me, I go to a lot of music festivals at this stage of my life, and it's interesting because I'm into very specific genres of music, and you'll go to see a specific artist because you love their songs and blah blah blah. And sometimes I'll be at a stage where I'm by myself or I'm there with friends or whatever, and it's so interesting the difference in experience when I'm at a stage that I'm seeing an artist playing that I love, and I hear a song that I know, and I go, yeah, I love this song. And I turn to my friend, and he's there, and he goes, yeah, I love this song. And we go, yes, this is awesome. We get to see this thing happen, and this is a song that we both know, and we've shared this experience, and we've connected over this. But the other side of that is that when you're there alone, or when you're there with friends that don't know that music, but let's go with the example of being alone, for example, you get that small rush where you're like, yeah, I love this song, and I know this artist, and you look around.
Yeah, and you can't share it.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you're by yourself, I'm not taking away from people doing things by themselves, because you're a hero when you go and do things by yourself. And I've gone and done things by myself like that, for example. That's why I found myself in that situation. But it really is entirely different when you don't have that connection around you, where you've connected with a friend that's like on the same level as you. This is the whole reason we're doing Metaminds, right? Because we share the similar perspectives, Yeah. And that's what creates fulfillment, and that's what creates meaning, because then you look back on that, like, and you go, remember that time at that music festival 3 years ago, we saw that artist that we love from 10 years ago play that one song from 20 years ago, whatever it is. And you go, yes, that's awesome. And that gives you this warm feeling on the inside. But otherwise, if that friend wasn't there, you go, remember that time? Oh, yeah, I remember that time, because it was just me. It's a totally different experience. And this is why connection is part of why, purpose exists, because it's like nothing matters if you're not there with people,
No, that's it. And I think the whole idea of it's lonely at the top is another testament to that. If you are all about success and all about money and projects and whatever else, then you'll find that you will disconnect from people around you, or they'll disconnect from you, or whatever situation you find yourself in. And it can be lonely at the top if you let that happen. But like you said, it's so important to always keep those connections in your heart and always keep that as one of the main priorities, because you will notice such a big difference if you're connected and you feel like you have a good group of people around you.
Yeah. But again, this is kind of like making it sound like it's easy to find friends.
But it's a journey. Yeah, like people. I've gone through. I guess if you want me to reflect on that, when I moved here, when I moved to Spain, I lost all of my friends I had in England. Then we moved back to England.
Back in the time before there was social media.
Before there was social media.
Just add me.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it was like, give me your email, man, and then you would screw up the letter, so then you have no idea what their email is. Never see them again. And that happened twice. I had people that gave me their emails, it wasn't right, and then it disappeared. So I disconnected with people time after time after time, and that's why I have such a drive to want to have real, authentic people that I can connect with and that I can hold on to, because I did recognize how unhappy I was and how hard it was for me when I was moving, and I had to struggle time and time again where I just had no one around me and I was so lonely. And that was when I guess I started that process of trying to figure out deeper things. And that's where that idea of like, well, what is the point then? Like, if I'm lonely and if I'm the only person looking after my own self-interests, then I need to figure out what makes me happy. And that's kind of where the early stages of me reflecting on it started.
So we've covered the fact that it's like you have to experience consciousness, and then to layer onto that cake. I don't know why I'm going with this cake analogy, but
no, we like cakes though. Yeah, the cake analogy.
to layer on this on the next layer of the cake is connection, right?
Right.
But then the next layer of the cake is a lot of the meaning that has been conditioned into us, right? Or the purpose that's been conditioned into us, and it's very limited. It's a very limited perspective. I always say consciousness is limitless, but the experience that we're all sharing in this current day and age is actually very limited, in that it's only made up of the thoughts that have been thought so far. That's quite meta, but like to give a bit more context, basically the whole, you grow up and you go to school and you go to university and you get a job and you get a house and you get a wife and you have a child and you die. That's life, you know? And that's
conditioned, that's drilled into you.
This is just social conditioning, and it doesn't actually have to be that way. Now that's like an obvious thing to say, but it's like there's infinite variables in life, and it just so happens that the reason a lot of people are depressed or stuck in this like meaning thought loop is because they haven't even thought outside the box, in that this is the box basically, and it's like this is the box that's presented to us and this is the box that you'll be in. But because it doesn't have to be like that. You can create your own meaning and life and purpose basically.
For sure, yeah.
And if your purpose is that you just want to sit around and make cakes all day just to keep on this cake train.
You want to start making cakes.
All right, let's make a cake, Dan. This is what I thought.
After the podcast,
After the podcast. We'll put Metamind on it.
Oh, there you go.
But if that's what you want to do, and sit in a little tiny house off, on the edge of a cliff for your whole life, and that's what gives you meaning and that's what gives you purpose. Yeah. And that's completely different to what society says is wrong, because you're not producing something for someone else to create capital for someone else. Then you should do that, because that's awesome and that's what you want to do and that's fulfilling to you and that's what gives you meaning and that's what gives you peace and fulfillment basically.
For sure, yeah. And like you mentioned, it is conditioned into us. It's something that could be conditioned by your parents or by other family members or by friends or society, yeah. But the big thing is a lot of these advertisements as well really drill home the fact of you have to have this status symbol, you have to have this nice car or this nice house, or
you have to have a Metamind t-shirt.
You have to have a Metamind t-shirt. All of these things that are drilled into you, they are drilled in from someone else. So that means that other person has an agenda. They're trying to sell something, or maybe they don't have an agenda. Maybe it was conditioned into them, so they think that it's the right way to go about life. But the reality is, if they've created an identity for you based on their experiences, then that might not actually sit with you. That might not actually be your meaning of life. And we're not discrediting anyone that wants to own a house and have a wife or a boyfriend, husband, whatever, and go through those experiences. That's great. But a lot of people will just go into that and then become resentful because they haven't actually found themselves, right? So I guess what we're trying to get at is, you sometimes just have to take these things with a grain of salt. These comments from people, these societal norms, these advertisements, take it all with a grain of salt and, get to know yourself more than these norms.
The hard part about that, and to play devil's advocate, is that we're so flooded with those things.
That's
that
exactly right.
It's so easy to say,
Yeah.
don't take all these things in. But scientifically, it's been proven that our sense of self is created through how we perceive other people to perceive us. Mm-hmm. So like the way you physically react to me, I go, oh, right. If you're always doing this to me, I'm like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, basically, because the way Dan reacted to me, and that makes me think that the person that it shapes my sense of self, basically reacting to how other people react to us.
Yep.
It's harder
said than done, for sure.
For sure, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it's very, very hard to break out of that, and to constantly, it takes a lot of mindfulness to really recognize that everything is trying to shape you in a way, and to come up with your own, your original thought on it. In fact, Trista mentioned this, that said something in one of our guests earlier in the podcast, that, listen to other people, but then you have to come up with your own thoughts on the matter. And by doing that, the way to do that is to actually experience it for yourself. So if someone's like, you need to go on a holiday to Thailand, then it's like, and then someone's like, you absolutely can't go on a holiday to Thailand.
Yeah, I had a bad experience.
It's like you have to make up your own mind based on research, or by just going there and making up your own mind. You know what I mean? All these different things on your sense of self. And anyway, we're talking about sense of self now, not meaning, but it is very intertwined.
It's connected, for sure.
Because if you don't have a solidified sense of self, then you have no sense of meaning, because you're just this like being where you're like, I don't know who I am or what I'm doing. Which some days we feel like that.
And we do. And then when you feel like that, it's very easy to then see an advertisement or someone say something, and then you get drifted down that path. I find myself still doing that. That's why I personally have disconnected from TV, just conventional TV, because of the advertisements and because of how toxic the news was, and all of these things that I personally don't want to consume and don't want to go down that path. So for me, I found a lot of purpose through that, and consuming different stuff, different content that helps me grow, and connecting more than consuming pointless stuff that doesn't help in any way.
Yeah, and that's about filtering the media filtering information that's given to you, and how you filter it is very important.
And probably a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast itself, absolutely. But yeah, it's a small nugget of gold there if you can kind of dive into that yourself.
Yeah.
But another way of framing this is that you apply the meaning to everything, and life can be anything that you want it to, because there is infinite variables. You just have to choose your attitude towards it. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh my God, I have to work this 40-hour week job so I can feed myself, and then I only get to work on this outside of that job, and then I only get the weekends off. It's like, no, I get to work this 40-hour week job so that then I get to go home and I get to be with my family and friends, and I get to work in this other business in the meantime, and perhaps one day I'll do that, but perhaps not. It's like you can choose to go into that 40-hour job and enjoy it, even though traditionally it's been said that it's not enjoyable, whatever it is, that grind. You can choose your attitude towards it, and you can choose the meaning you get out of that thing. And you can choose to be happy in it. You need to know that. It's just much easier to be negative. It's much easier to be like, oh, I'm so stuck in this job and it sucks. Yeah. Which is true, and you're bound to feel that way sometimes. Yeah. But you choose
have a choice.
Your attitude.
Yeah, you do definitely have a choice.
It takes more effort, but
yeah. And it normally is the harder option for people to actually, have a choice and take a stand against something. That's a hard thing to do sometimes, especially if you recognize that it's a stable income and all these other things that make it easier financially and emotionally. You don't have to change jobs and look for one and worry about stability and all these things. But you have a choice to react to that, like you said. So if it's terrible, then you can start taking those steps to transition somewhere else. You don't have to just quit straight away. You don't have to just completely resent it or stay in the job. You can take slow steps to change your reality a little bit. So you have that choice.
Yeah. But yeah, the main thing is you apply the meaning to your life. So here's me saying what the meaning of life is, and then you add what your meaning of life is onto that. And this is what works for me. That's what works for you. Could be some combination of that, but you need to come up with what your meaning of life is, and what's going to fulfill you, what's going to drive you forward to have the most positive impact both on yourself and other people, because that's what's going to give you a fulfilling and wholesome and a life that you enjoy. And if none of these things that we're saying today reside with you, then push it away. Delete this podcast and say that wasn't very productive for me. Yeah. Or
but tell us why.
Tell us why. Absolutely, for sure. Like DM us on Instagram or whatever. Let us know what your meaning of life is. Yeah. We would love to hear about that, but because it could be entirely different to ours.
It could.
Or something we've said could have sparked something to change that thought, or vice versa. Something you think might spark one of our thoughts. And this is part of it, is we get to
it's
discuss
growing
these
together.
things.
Yeah.
We're lucky that we get to chat about our own experience, and it can be productive. And some days we're gonna feel a little bit trash, and this is why you have a friend that you sit down with and you go, man, feel a little bit trash today.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, this is why. And it's like, well, guess what? Nobody has any idea what's going on, so none of this matters.
Yeah.
Do you want to get a beer?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Why not?
Yeah. Well, let's watch some Friends or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
So, all right, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's get into some actionable content. How can we've had a little bit there, but how can we, find our own meaning in life, and how can we, find purpose? How can we find our own point for life, Dan?
Yeah. I think
Push the hardest question on you, basically.
you did, and I was prepared for months for this moment. No, but I think one thing to recognize, it's an ongoing journey. It's a big journey. Don't think it will happen now or tomorrow. It's a big, big journey. So be kind to yourself throughout the process. And one thing that I think is just crucial is you need to be able to reflect internally on your own values and yourself, and be able to sit with yourself. And for people out there, it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to confront these thoughts. It's uncomfortable to sit there and think about these things. It can be very uncomfortable. And I go through that still. It's an uncomfortable experience. But sometimes sitting through the uncomfort, the example of being a boat in a storm and trying to stay with the tide and stay with the waves and keep afloat, that's the idea of staying with this discomfort. But you will come out and the storm will disappear, and then you might find a glimmer of hope, or the sunlight will come out, So reflecting on yourself and knowing yourself is so important, and it's a big journey. So be mindful of that and look after yourself throughout the process. But to me, that's probably the biggest starting point, maybe, just starting that needle moving to reflecting on yourself, reflecting on your feelings, your emotions, how you react to things, how your ego reacts to things. All of these things can really help you understand yourself in a deeper way.
Also, listen to pretty much all the MetaMinds podcasts.
Well, that's another thing. That's basically what I'm saying.
Because we talk about this stuff all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically.
But I know.
The other thing is, that's huge, is that, like, don't stop trying to figure it out as such, but definitely take a little step back and realize that you never will figure it out.
Yeah.
Because as we said, the figuring it out changes. Right? You're going to be in one circumstance and you'll have it figured out, and then like 1 minute will change and something will happen and you'll be completely lost again. So there's no end goal. There's no figuring it out.
It's not a race.
No, that's it. And it's like, there's no rush to, I'm really talking to myself here, because I do this where I'm like, oh, I need to figure this out so I can get to the next thing. And it's like, no, just sit down, chill out. Like, have a thought about what's happening right now, see if you can resolve it in the best way possible and start to move forward. Because, like, you're never going to know what you're going to be doing in 20 years. You're just not.
You just won't.
You could die tomorrow. That's morbid.
But it is a true thing. So I guess in what you're saying is you have to be grateful for the moment as well. And also on my point of caring for yourself and having that self-care and being careful throughout this process, because it can bring up a lot of emotions again. But it's that idea of being grateful throughout the process, recognizing the little steps that you've taken, recognizing that, oh, well, maybe it was someone else that conditioned that in me. And then you recognize, well, maybe there's another option. Maybe I can sculpt another narrative. Maybe I can create an alternative narrative that sits better with me. So even just starting that, or even just recognizing that can be a massive step for a lot of people. That was a big step for me. So you've got to be grateful for that, recognize that it's a big thing.
The final thing I would say, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but to simplify it, change your attitude on I get to rather than I have to. Because to use the gym, for example, I really like going to the gym, but some people I talk to are like, I hate going to the gym. And it's like, yeah, but you're still in a country that's wealthy enough where you actually get to go to the gym. Just if you change your framing, I get to go to the gym rather than I have to go to the gym, or whatever it is for you, that's just going to change your attitude on it, and you're going to actually be grateful for that, whatever it is, even if it's something you don't like doing. I get to go to work today. That really is how it is. But if you think about it in the way I have to, then you're going to be miserable, dude. So
for sure.
I think we've covered a lot. Look, and again, there's so much more to cover. Like, it's an infinitely deep topic, and we kind of bounced around a little bit, didn't we? But we covered some things, and I think we had a pretty productive conversation. But again, if there's anything that you want to add, like, be sure to let us know on any of our platforms, basically. Or jump on Castbox, because we are always live casting there. Sometimes impromptu stuff where it's not even the podcast that we record. So spicy exclusive content there. Thanks for watching MetaMinds today, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone.